Okay, so one thing that I've been thinking about a lot here lately is how to explain what a therapist does, what a counselor does, to someone who either has spent a lot of time on social media or just has no frame of reference for counseling and therapy at all. And I think it's really important to do this because there was a study, that more of a journalistic study by The Guardian a couple years ago, I believe, in which they looked at TikTok videos on social media about mental health and found that over half of the content online is incorrect and full of misinformation when it comes to mental health. So there's a lot of misconceptions. There's also a lot of taboos still around mental health, emotional health, relational health. And so I've been trying to come up with a really simple analogy, especially since I primarily work with children and teenagers, and have tried to come up with something that kind of explains what therapists and counselors do. And so the three analogies that I have is that therapists and counselors do one of three things typically, and they might do all three at the same time with their clients, and they might exist in only one of these roles at a time. The first is that a therapist or counselor can be like a physical therapist, meaning that they are working with somebody who has had an injury and is helping them learn how to navigate life again after that injury. In the mental health and emotional health world, we call those injuries trauma. And a lot of times that is typically what people think about when they think about going to therapy, is recovering from some kind of trauma. The second analogy is that a therapist or a counselor can be like a personal trainer. They can work with somebody who is more or less healthy, but is just looking to learn new skills and strengthen themselves so that they can move more successfully, be more flexible, and handle more weight, as it were. This is very similar to a personal trainer physically. They are working with people to be able to run faster, lift heavier weights, or be a little bit more flexible in terms of their mobility. And the same thing is true for people in their mental, emotional, and relational lives with counselors and therapists. Our goal is to help people figure out how to be able to carry more, or how to move through life more efficiently, move through life with more peace, with more ease, move through their relationships, and maybe even find ways to be more flexible if they have mindsets that are otherwise a little more rigid. And then the final analogy is that mental health counselors and therapists work as coaches. They take people who are healthy, who have a strong amount of skills, and they give them direction in how to use their skills and how to use their mind and their emotions and their relationships to move toward kind of the goals that they want for themselves. So again, that's physical therapist, personal trainer, and coach. It's important to note that mental health counselors and therapists are not magicians. Unfortunately, just like losing weight or putting on muscle or becoming more flexible, therapy and the work of counseling takes time. And we're also not supposed to be people's main place to vent and to talk about their lives. No one should have to pay to have someone to talk to. And that's why any good mental health counselor or therapist is also going to encourage people to build social supports and social networks that allow them to just have somebody to talk to when they need someone to talk to. Unfortunately, not everyone has that, and that is what therapists end up being for a lot of people. Sometimes but that is not the long-term goal for people. And thirdly, therapists and counselors also cannot be people's lifeline. They certainly can step in a crisis, but they are not intended to be the only thing that's keeping somebody afloat. So, physical therapist, personal trainer, coach. That is my current working analogy system for explaining therapy and counseling to people. So, if you like it and it works for you, awesome. If not, I would love to hear kind of how you think about therapy and counseling. That's it for today. Thank you for listening to today's episode of Voice Memos from a Therapist. I'm Graham McBride, a licensed professional counselor associate, and I really appreciate you taking the time to listen. Make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss our next memo when it comes out, always on Monday mornings. Just a reminder, the content in these podcasts is just my own opinions. They should not be considered therapeutic counsel or advice. And as always, I reserve the right to continue to learn and grow, as I hope that we all are. If you have further questions, feel free to find me on social media at gmc.counseling. This podcast is also available on YouTube if you're more of a video person, along with some longer form content. And finally, if you would like to learn more about what was discussed today, you can find more details in the show notes. As always, I hope you have an amazing day.